Hello internet friends, my name is Catherine and I'm the human behind Creation Miss Couture, and today is an episode of Dye Pan where we're going to be over dyeing some fibers. I have the same fibers in three different colors that we're going to over dye. So we have a dark blue, beige oyster, and a gray one, and we're going to be over dyeing with leftover dyes. So it's a twofers because we have leave no dye and over dyeing today. So let's get into this. Today we're leaving no dye behind and we're doing a color comparison for over dyeing. So we are going to be using Wool of the Andes, which is an unspun roving from Knit Picks We Crochet. So they're 100% Peruvian Highland wool. So this is a non-super wash. And this one is colored Dove Heather, which is a gray on the neutral. This is Oyster Heather, which is more on the beige pinkish color, and this is Lake Ice Heather, which has a blue undertone to it. So I want to do a color comparison when you're over dyeing with this Huntsman roving, and we're going to be using those jars over here that I have. We're going to top up some of the colors so we have more, and we're going to be recreating the exact same steps for all of the roving that we have here so that we can have a good comparison and see if we can obtain something similar. I feel like the Dove Heather and the Lake Ice will be very similar with the final result because of the similarity of the colors, and I think the oyster will be slightly different. We will see more warm undertone popping up from this because of the nature of the color that it already has. So we're going to be using all those color I have over here, and like I said, I'm just going to be topping up some of them so we have enough stock solution for all of it. And we're going to be recreating the exact same steps with the same quantity of liquid that we have. So I think what I'm going to do is just a quick tissue test. You know how I feel about tissue tests. They are not precise, but they can give us at least an idea of what color we're working with. So this one seems to be orange. This is some sort of green. This one was yellow. I knew it. This I am absolutely not sure what it is. And last but not least, I think this is brown. Okay, so we have a color palette that is very autumnal, so why not? Let's go with that. I'm going to go and we're going to go into the pans now. So you will have to excuse the angle of the camera because I had to play a lot with what I have. I don't have the setup to properly see the three pans at once. So we're going to be starting by adding some citric acid in each of our pans. So rule of thumbs when it comes to citric acid is that you want about 1 tablespoon per 454 grams of fiber or yarn. Since we have 100 grams, 1 teaspoon is what you need. So we're going to be adding some water. So I've just added 8 cups of tap water in each of the pans, and now we're going to be soaking the fiber into our dye bath. So one thing you should know is that if you're going to be working with the same pan that you are soaking your fiber in it, you might have a little bit more residue when you are cleaning off the excess dyes from your fiber. And that is because you've done everything in the same pan, which means that the oils that naturally are in the fiber will stay there. So sometimes you have a feeling that the color bleeds a lot, but it's not that it's bleeding, it's just the natural residue of oils and sometimes small debris over here. So just keep that in mind so that you don't like worry too much about what's going on. And if you would have preferred, you could also just soak your fiber separately, and once it's completely soaked up, you can just start working with it in a separate pan. We might need to add a little bit more liquid just to ensure that we have enough liquid to soak up the fiber, but also to not have a fire happening, because we do not want to burn anything like I did last year. Let's not do that again. It was very unpleasant and it smelled horrible for a few days in the basement after that. Okay, so we have our fiber. You know what? I think I'm just gonna go ahead and add some extra liquid, and that way I will have peace of mind. Okay, so I'm going to be adding some water, and then after that, we will be waiting for the fiber to finish soaking up all the water that it needs to be before we're going to be adding our dye. So I will see you in a little bit. Okay, so we seem to have quite a bit of hair bubbles happening in here, but especially for the oyster one, I think it's very interesting. But it's okay, we can still work with it. It's just that we have more air bubbles and air pockets in the fiber. So I have a 100 milliliter thingy here. So we are going to start with the orange. So we're going to try to replicate as much as possible the same pattern of color, so we can have a good representation of what will happen with the overdyeing here, and how much the color underneath will influence our final result. So it's a little bit of color theory at the same time. 2 for 1. Okay. There we go. So we have the orange. I'm going to turn on the heat now, because I did not do that as of yet. So let's get this color start striking. So we could wait for the orange to fully strike the fiber. However, I like that the color is moving a little bit, and I think I'm going to carry on with the yellow. So we're going to create sort of a fade between each colors, sort of, because I have 5 jars, but the thing is, I don't know what it's going to look like underneath. So yeah, so we might have to work the other side as well. And you can see already where, well, I don't know if you can see actually, if you can see properly. Here, because we have the blue undertone, the yellow is turning slightly more on the green side. Same thing with this one here. It's a little less obvious with this one because it's more on the gray neutral, where this one is definitely blue underneath, where here we have the yellow is staying yellow. Like the warm colors are staying warm. So this is, I still have tiny bit of that. There we go. Just so we can use all of it. Because it's a leave no dye after all. And now I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into that green we had. So it's a logical transition. There we go. I'm going to try to make it move a little bit further up. We might still keep some of that natural, not natural, but of the color we had at the top, depending on like how much color we have left in my jars. We'll see how I feel. Let's go with the flow. And when you are working with your dyes, you want to apply the colors with intention, so that way it goes where you want to go. So, with confidence, like that. And we had orange at the bottom of this. This is very interesting. I have no idea what I was doing with those. Okay, so we're gonna go in this gray, grayish. It might not be gray actually. It might be a very diluted green. It might be that. Interesting. And you can already observe that the colors on the I think it's called the oyster one, are more vibrant than on the other ones, which makes sense because it's much paler than the other colors that we are working with. So I still have like 200 milliliters, so I'm just going to be adding like 40 milliliters or 30, 40 milliliters. There we go. Still have a little bit left, so I guess I should have done, but there's barely any pigment in that, so I don't know how much will survive the process. So I don't know how to measure thing apparently. There we go. Okay, so now we're gonna go into that brownish color at the end. Okay, so we should have an interesting transition of fall colors, but I do believe we will have to work on the back of this because the color won't cover the entire thing at the back of this. So we'll probably, maybe not for this one though. We'll see once the color is fully absorbed on the side. Why did I just do this? I don't know. Okay. Okie dokie. Perfect. So I'm going to let this strike for at least 50 minutes. And we're going to come back. Okay, so we're going to let this strike for 15 minutes on the stove, and then in 15 minutes I'm gonna come back to see where we are. If there's colors left, I will just leave it as is, but if there's no color in it, in the dye bath left, I'm just going to check underneath if we need to work the back of the fiber. So we are going to do that. And I've just freed up 5 more of my jars, which is amazing. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes, and as I can see, which is normal, I was expecting it, the orange is taking a little longer to strike, and we seem to have some pockets of the green, but really nothing major. It's more on the sides where there is less direct heat that we have this, and there's a little bit of the yellow from the brown here. Same thing here as expected, tiny, tiny, tiny bit of the green, a little bit, a hint of the yellow for the brown. Same thing here. Okay, so this one, it's really on the sides that we do this. So what I want to do I want to move? Because if I move anything, the color will just move a lot more. Okay, let's try this. That way. Yeah, I will absolutely need to work on the back because there's basically no colors on there. So, but I don't want to add more to the orange section. I don't want to add anything more to the orange section because it's just going to be too intense, I think. Okay, so what do I want to do and how do I want to do this? Okay. I am unsure of how I want to proceed. Because if it were yarn, there wouldn't be too much movement. But since it's just one long thing of fiber, that could cause problems. What do I want to do and how do I want to do it? Okay. And you know what? If it moves, it moves. That's life. Because I don't want to have too much movement on the fiber because I don't want to felt the fiber. Okay, so we will have some of the orange that has moved, but that's fine. Just going to do the other ones as well so that it's done. Ow. But at least we should still have the exact same result. Well, not exact same result, but we should have the same idea of what's going to happen. And we can already see some results like this is much lighter than those two, just to the fact that this was a beige and those were much darker. So no surprise there for that. Oops. Okay, so there we go. So we've flipped everything, and I'm gonna go and check what kind of color we could be adding. We're going to be adding a pink because why not? It's going to be fun. There we go. So, and I think it's going to be very cool, very pretty, and it's not going to be in my way anymore. Okay, so now that we have all the colors, do I want two speckles? No, because it's, first of all, it's fiber, so it will create a watercolor effect anyways. And it's going to overpower everything if I try to speckle anything. So we're not going to be speckling. I know it's surprising, but what we're going to do now is we are going to let this cook for 30 minutes. There we go. So I'm going to let this cook for 30 minutes and we're going to come back and see where we're at some point. So see you in a bit. And we're back. So we're just going to check. So we still have a tint of the orange over here, but that was to be expected with orange. With the residual heat that we will have, it should all clear off, but I don't think so. I think we will have, because I'm fairly certain that this is leftover from saffron spice, and saffron spice always bleed a little bit. Just, I don't know why. There's something in that's just always. But it's been 30 minutes and I don't want to overheat our fiber, so we're just going to turn off everything over here, and we're going to let it completely cool off before washing off any excess dye. And here we go. Ouch. So I will see you later to wash off the excess dye. So see you in a bit. So as you can see, we have one of the bath that is, we have quite a bit of leftover color. So what we're going to do, because I want to make sure that everything was, because technically it's all the same colors that we've applied, right? So we should have a similar result for everything. So I'm just going to quickly test out the pH of all of them, and we'll be able to make sure that we had the right pH level. So it's just like those universal pH thing that you can purchase either directly on Dharma or ProChem website. And we'll be able to double check if we have the right pH level, because we want to be closer to those. We don't want to be too much on the 1-2, because that would be slightly too acidic for the yarn. But I would say we are closer. Yeah, we're pretty much on a 4 for this. Like 3, 4. I barely see the difference between the 3 and the 4, so I think it's a 4. So we have so far the same level of acid in all of the dye baths. So I'm not quite certain why the middle one with the oyster seem to have not struck all of the color. I'm not quite certain why. But we double check the pH, and that it's probably not the problem. So it might just be the fiber itself. Like technically we have the same fiber, right? It's all, the 3 of them were 100% Peruvian Highland wool, so we should have clear bath for the 3 of them. So, but it's also with saffron spice, maybe there was more pigment, like there was a clump of pigment that was at the bottom of the thing, because I didn't stir it necessarily properly. So we might have had an excess of the saffron spice in this one compared to the 2 others. So this is also something we need to make sure that we try at least to avoid when we're working with leftover stock solution. This is usually why I like to work from fresh stock solution, because I know that I've just stirred it, that it's properly mixed together, and there's no sediment at the bottom of it. So this is something to keep in mind when you're working with leftover dyes. So we're just going to go and put the fiber in a bath to remove all excess dye. I was going to put everything at the same time, but because of that middle one, I don't think I will do that, just so we can see what's going to happen. Okay, so let's do this. So I will start with the one that was in the dye bath that we saw earlier, that had all that color in the bath, and we can already see a whole lot of bleeding coming out of it. So I'm going to let it soak for a little bit in there, and just try to remove the most of the excess dye. So I'll let it rest there a little bit. Okay, we do have some orange in it, so we might be good with this second bath. Maybe all the excess stayed in the dye pan and we just had a little bit left in here. Yeah, I'm going to let this soak a little bit just in case, and then we're going to put it in a spin dryer. Okay, yeah. Okay, it doesn't look too bad. Oh, it actually looks pretty nice. So I don't want to move too much of the fiber. So this is something I also try to be mindful of, because when you have wet fiber, you're more likely to felt it, which is not what we want when it comes to spinning fiber. So I know I didn't want to mix the first one with those two. I'm mixing those two just because I had a clear bath for both of them. So I'm just hoping that there won't be any bleeding. I might regret this decision, but I'm going to let it rest in the bath for a few minutes, like 10 minutes, just so we can make sure that like all the color is in this fiber and that we won't have too much bleeding. So see you in about 10. Okay, let's look at this. We seem to have a little bit of color. I was hoping, but I shouldn't have been hoping that much, because that's usually what happens when I have saffron or in saffron spice from Dharma. So okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to let it sit for like 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back to make sure that we don't have any more bleeding. So like I was mentioning, is that with saffron spice, I always seem to have at least a little bit of bleeding the first wash I do with it. So there's that. It's just, I guess it's in the nature of that specific pigment from Dharma Trading Co. So that's life, We just need to enjoy it. Okay, so see you in 10. Okay. I think we're good. Okay, so let's add this to my spin dryer. Okay, and the main reason why I like to use the lingerie bags like that is to avoid too much friction when I'm washing the excess dye. And so far, it's been really good to help out with avoiding any felting. So, not felting. So, I will put that in a spin dryer, and we're going to see the final result tomorrow when it's fully dried. Bye! And here's the final result for overdyeing with leftover dye stock solution that we had. So as you can see, when it comes to the color, they are quite similar. However, this is the one that had like the blue heathered color. And you can see that is obviously darker, but we can still keep... Oh, hi Zoe. But we're still able to keep the brightness of the colors, which I was a little worried about, especially compared to the one that was like that oyster beige color, where we have more vibrant colors than the two others. And you can tell that the blue and the gray one, since they had similar undertones, are similar when it comes to the final result, where the middle one is much more lighter, which we were expecting. I'm really not surprised about this. So this is just a good exercise of understanding that the color will just be slightly darker when you over dye something darker in general, which, like, of course, we didn't need to make the experiment to know it, but it's always nice to have a visual representation of it, right? Okay, Zoe, can you stop hitting the tripod, please? Yeah, I knew you like that. It's not her favorite fiber. Her favorite fiber, funnily, is BFL. I do not know why Blueface Leicester is her favorite, but like she goes crazy for that fiber. Like I cannot have Blueface Leicester out because she will get into it. She's just like that. What can I say? Anyways, so this is the final result. I think it's pretty fun and it made really fall colors and I really like it. So hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider sharing, liking, and subscribing, and I'll see you the next one very soon. Bye!